you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
This game, this series is over. Edmonton's heading to the Stanley Cup Finals.
And welcome to the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. It's so automatic when that song ends, Pierre, that I just say, and welcome, but I forgot we're playing a clip right away. Short-term memory man here. Pierre, McGuire, Jimmy Murphy here. We will shortly be joined, and it looks like we got him right now, the radio man that you heard in that call for the Edmonton Oilers. Jack Michael's been waiting a long time to make that call, and here he is talking to us on the Eye Test. Ooh, are you down in Florida already, Jack, or what?
I'm ready as I'm going to be. Right now, obviously, the whole city's juiced. I've of course already got my time zones messed up, so I apologize for the rather casual nature of this presentation. But yeah, this city's alive. Pierre knows. I mean, no one loves playoff hockey. I meant what I said the other day. You know, a guy from Pittsburgh, I can speak. I feel from equal experience. You know, Steeler country. I'm sorry, it's next level noise, next level juice here in the city of Edmonton. There's nothing like playoff hockey in June in Edmonton when the Oilers are in the hunt.
Hey, Jack, how good is that Connor McDavid guy?
Well, I mean, Pierre, look, I don't know what to tell you because obviously you had a front row seat for, generally speaking, one of the four Mount Rushmore guys. You competed against and watched another of the Mount Rushmore guys who is still the unquestionably number one. But I'm sorry, if you're asking me, is it out of line for me to suggest, Gretzky, Lemieux, or Howe? I'm sorry, the fifth name coming out right now. I'm sorry, I don't feel bad about saying it's 97. He's the most advanced player we've seen, to steal a line from my color commentator. He does stuff at that speed that we haven't seen ever before, not even close. Yep. He is, in a very real sense, the Jordan. I mean, whatever you want to say about LeBron James, he's not next level advancement from Michael Jordan. But McDavid is from Gretzky, and I'll stand by that all day long.
You don't have to be ashamed of that. You're spot on. I completely agree with that, Jack. That's well said. Now, I just need to know, is it Louis DeBrusk, your color commentator, or Robbie Brown?
Oh, well, Robbie Brown is, of course, as you know, a legend in his own mind, a legend certainly in Pittsburgh. And he's my analyst, in the playoffs alongside Bob Stauffer. Of course, Bob Stauffer's my primary guy. Louis, who I think is the best TV analyst, for my money, working in Canada right now. He finished up his work after the second round. He did that Rangers-Carolina series. And, he told me, Florida beats the Rangers, he didn't know what the margins were with Rangers Carolina. Then all of a sudden Florida set the margins pretty significantly in that Rangers series. I'm not sure they didn't win that series, Pierre, 6-0. So we'll see what it looks like. All I can say is I feel confident that Edmonton's going to give Florida all they want, and vice versa. I don't see a short series at all in this matchup because you've got two veteran, hungry teams that have been around it but haven't won it, and both teams have the ability. And this is where the Oilers have made huge strides now with, Ekholm in the mix and Corey Perry in the mix. These two teams can beat you any which way you want it, 90s style or today's style.
Jack, our mutual friend Mark Spector, who actually put me in touch with you, he wrote a good column the other day just kind of about that, and more so about the reversal of, what the Edmonton Oilers are right now compared to maybe what they were a year ago or 2 years ago, in the sense that they've bought into the 200-foot game, but even more so that penalty kill. Just talk to us about the way you've seen that going back, I guess, to when Knobloch came in, that whole aspect of their game develop.
Well, Jimmy, here's what I would say. First off, Chris Knobloch brought exactly what Edmonton needed in that situation, a sense of calm. I think all three of us are of a vintage where we may remember, and I actually don't, but I'm a baseball nerd. But this for me, and I'm not saying Jay Woodcroft was Billy Martin, but the personality for me was, Chris Knobloch is the Bob Lemon. He came in and just calmed everyone down.
Good call.
Hey, like there's 70 games to go. Let's go 5-3 and the next handful of 8-game segments, and we're going to be right there. There's no world beaters in the Western Conference. At that particular point in time, you got to remember, Arizona had a playoff spot. He goes, we got a lot of time. Here's what we're doing on the penalty kill. We've been using 23, 24 different comp. That ends right now. You 6 guys are going to kill penalties. We know we have the world's best power play, and we're going to start rolling people and get everyone involved and just sort of chip away and get everyone's game back. I mean, Edmonton, when they went into San Jose and lost 3-2, they just looked like a shell of themselves. I mean, just a beaten down bunch that just needed to kind of, let's have a game here and have a game there. And we all know that at that point it still is, even though you're down to 70 games, it's still a marathon. So you got to just chip away. You can't get it all back in one shot. No. And Chris kind of just had that calming presence. Like, we've got a good team, guys. There's no way this is going to continue. Let's just settle. And here's what I'm going to do to help you. I'm going to simplify everything. Here's your role. Here's your role. Here's your role. And slowly but surely, and it didn't happen right away. I mean, Florida smacked them around in Edmonton in mid-December, but they got going. And for me, this whole team's attitude changed during the 16-game winning streak. Go back and look at that streak. There's no 7-5, 8-4 annihilations. It was 3-1, and 4-1 victory after another. And we've seen that carry over in the playoffs against L.A., outshot 33-13, no problem. We'll beat you 1-0. Last 2 games of the Dallas series, boom, 3-1 and 2-1. Not many people. I'm not saying locally. I think the secret's out there, but a lot of those East Coasters are still thinking, well, there's no way Edmonton can win 2-1, 3-1 games. Their penalty kill has been the best in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs. They've wiped out 28 in a row. If that continues, Florida's going to have issues. For me, if you're asking me what one aspect of the game has brought Edmonton to the Stanley Cup final, it's not the power play. It's not Connor McDavid. It's not Leon Draisaitl. It's not Stuart Skinner. It's the penalty kill. That's the reason they're in the final.
And just one quick follow-up on that. Sorry, Pierre, I just want to ask about Mark Stewart and Knobloch's trust in him when he came on board. Most guys want to bring in their own guys. Most guys want to dictate their own stuff there. But it seemed like he just said, look, I did my research on you. I believe in you. And he let him have the keys to the car there. And he's taken off with it, hasn't he?
And Stewart hadn't done it before. I mean, Pierre's been in that coaching business. At some point, if you see a young guy with some ability, you've got to empower him. That's the only way that coaches grow. And we've seen that for 30, 40 years. And the other thing you have to have, if you're Chris Knobloch, is a sense of self. And, he was an assistant in Philadelphia, but a lot of guys wouldn't have had the self-confidence to be secure enough in their own skin to empower a guy like Mark Stewart, to empower a guy like Paul Coffey, who said, hey, what is this? The D are sitting together. That's the first thing Koff did. And Pierre knows this as well as anyone. Koff's old school. He doesn't mind telling the D, hey, whatever about the forwards. They can have all the accolades they want. We can make plays too, and we're going to start making them right now. So he switches the whole locker room around. He sits the defense together, and I know other teams do it, but Edmonton had it. They hadn't had this 6 defensemen sit together. Coffey insisted on that, and Chris Knobloch, wasn't worried about being, somehow undermined or whatever. when you're the head coach, you've got to be secure enough in your own skin to kind of let those maneuvers take shape. And if it's not working, then you gently suggest accommodations the other way. In this particular case, I think the defense at that point started to build a certain identity, started to puff their chests out a little louder. For too long, Edmonton has been known as this two-trick pony with McDavid and Draisaitl. Yeah. And I think subconsciously, perhaps sometimes that seeps into the room as far as the defenseman thinking they've got to be deferential. Well, Evan Bouchard hasn't been deferential. Matthias Ekholm hasn't been deferential. And if we were in 1990, and Pierre knows I'm right on this, Matthias Ekholm would have gotten Norris consideration. And I mean serious Norris consideration. The guy had 45 points and was plus $1 million. And no one talks about him. I love Evan Bouchard, but I'm not here saying that he's a better defenseman than Matthias Ekholm.
No, and that's well said. And I agree with Jack on that. Jimmy, you can tell that Jack is a guy from Pittsburgh because he's talking about a head coach that's comfortable in his own skin. When Badger Bob Johnson came to Pittsburgh and Jack was just a kid, he turned some of us loose, young guys and older guys, but he turned us loose. And then Scotty takes over. It's the same thing, back-to-back cups, and then the next year is a President's Trophy. So I know where you're coming from, Jack, on that, and it's well said. It's really well said. I got to ask you about, you were talking about stabilizing influences in the room, and you talked about Coach Knobloch. How much did Connor McDavid's press conference with Stuart Skinner before Game 4 help stabilize the team?
I mean, it just goes to show you that what a leader he is. I got to tell you, Pierre, this is something where unsolicited, when you talk to guys, they immediately say, you don't understand. To quote a line from Jim Morey, you think you know, but you just don't know and you never will. McDavid is absolutely behind everything that goes on with this team. He is revered by his teammates for his work ethic. I mean, he's been going out on pregame skates lately. This guy knows no other way. And the other thing about McDavid and Draisaitl, for that matter, I'm going to put Leon in this category. And Pierre, you saw this firsthand when the great ones, and I mean I'm not saying great like, no offense, but I'm not talking about Mark Recchi now. I'm talking about the greats, like when great used to mean something. When guys like Mario and Wayne and Connor get close, when they start sniffing it, they find another gear. I always say, as a Pittsburgh guy, I'm telling you, if they get through Philadelphia in '89, there is no way Mario Lemieux is losing a Wales final to the Montreal Canadiens. Not a chance. It would not have happened. And that's what I'm sensing with this group. Leon said it too. I think before the Dallas series, hey, we're desperate too. What are you talking about? Like, we want to win bad. Like, Edmonton's the oldest team in the league right now. And I think McDavid and Draisaitl are acutely aware of that. They're acutely aware that we're entering a window, not just a championship window anymore. This is a window where sometimes you start losing pieces. You're at the peak of your powers. If you don't get it done this year, there's no guarantee you're going to have the same group next year. And they like this group. They want to win with this group because they know it might not be the same. Pierre, you talked about that President's Trophy in '93. Well, what happened after they got stunned by the Islanders? Piece by piece, started to chip away. The '96 loss to Florida, and it was over. I mean, it can go one way, but it can go the other way too. To quote a favorite movie of mine, True Romance.
Jimmy, before you get going, I got to tell Jack a quick story. So you're talking about Connor and Leon and how they know they're in a special moment. So before the 1991 Game 6 Stanley Cup Final game in Minnesota, Bob Johnson, Barry Smith, Scotty Bowman, and I were walking from the Marriott Hotel to the arena. It was about a 3 or 4 block walk, and it was sunny, and people were tailgating, and it was wild. Scotty never really talked before the game. He would just go hide by himself and just figure stuff out. And we were walking. He says, "We're going to win tonight." And I'm looking over, and I'm like, I don't say boo. I'm just a young kid. I'm the caddy. I'm carrying the bags. And I look at him and he goes, yeah, we're going to win. I go, how do you know that? Because Mario's flying his family in from Montreal on a private plane, and he's not going to let us lose.
There you go.
It's to your point.
There you go.
When those guys get to a level, they go to another level. They do.
100%.
I agree with that.
So we're talking about, kind of following up on Pierre's question there with McDavid and that pregame speech or press conference. You look at Darnell Nurse and Stuart Skinner, right? And what they've been able to do in this playoffs. It's kind of a roller coaster at first, and the way they dug deep, the resilience they showed. Does that not typify the whole big picture for this team and how they've gone away from just being dependent on skills and realizing you got to do a lot more than that? And they've dug deep and they found it.
Well, here's the thing. Going into the Dallas series, a lot of people, the betting favorite was Edmonton. Mm-hmm. But most hockey people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most hockey people had Dallas winning. I'm not going to say it was 80%, but it was 2/3. I would feel pretty comfortable in 2/3. And what were the reasons? Depth and goaltending. I heard that. And so here we are. Dallas had 16 different players score a Stanley Cup playoff goal. Mm-hmm. How many do you think Edmonton has? 16. Head-to-head, Stuart Skinner, Jake Ottinger. Skinner outplayed him. Yep. Now, that's not to say that Skinner didn't need help against Vancouver. He did. And Calvin Pickard, who no one had playing a game in the NHL this year, let alone Game 4 of the second round of the playoffs, is just as important to this club's run to the Stanley Cup final as anyone else. Yep. So to get to a point where you're known as McDavid and Draisaitl, to guys like Philip Broberg and Calvin Pickard, who weren't in the league at chunks of time this year, being just as vital contributors. I mean, again, I go back to Chris Knobloch. He puts Adam Henrique back in the series, scores a goal. Yeah. He benches Ryan McLeod and Corey Perry, brings them back into the lineup for Game 4, a game you've got to have. And now you're down 2-0. And it looks like Dallas might win this series in Game 5. Well, who scored the first goal for Edmonton? Ryan McLeod. Who set it up? Corey Perry. Philip Broberg gets a big goal the next game. Connor Brown has a key set of 2 assists and a goal at a crucial time. These are guys that were healthy scratched and, not in the league, theoretically, heading into the season. So that's where Edmonton's gotten to. And part of the reason they've gotten there is McDavid and Draisaitl have continued to bring everyone in, have continued to, and when they've got a core guy that's getting knocked around, they're angry about it. And they outwardly show that teammate that it's one thing to do it in the room, but I also think it's good to do it with a snarl in the media. Players respect that. Players like it when they have their back, not just privately, but publicly. They'll say it doesn't matter, but it does matter. To do it publicly is saying, this is my guy. He's not going anywhere, and he'll be there when we need him.
Hey, Jack, how much are the guys in the dressing room talking about the villain from Calgary that's now playing in Florida? And I'm not talking Sam Bennett. I'm talking Matthew Tkachuk.
It's a huge X factor in this series, Pierre. I wonder, because I will tell you unequivocally that 2 years ago, Evander Kane took Matthew Tkachuk out of the series psychologically. He was a non-factor. And Calgary may have had Milan Lucic, but it didn't matter. Kane took Tkachuk out of the series. Now, he's going to have a harder time taking Matthew Tkachuk out of this series, because I would suggest, even though, again, Lucic was there, Florida team toughness, they're tougher, deeper, and I think more psychologically sound than that Calgary club. Remember, Jacob Markstrom, he's still trying to get his game back. He hasn't beaten Edmonton since. That team, that Calgary team, was a lot more fragile in my estimation than this Florida club. But I do think it can be a factor. Absolutely. There is still room for that kind of hockey and that kind of psychological warfare. But I will say this, Pierre, my gut tells me it's not going to have as dramatic an impact because Tkachuk has more support. That's what my gut tells me. But I do think it could be a factor. The biggest thing, Pierre and Jimmy, I would say is if Evander Kane can find a way to contribute in this series on the score sheet as well, it's going to be major. I mean, this is a guy who's scoring 25, 30 goals a year. Edmonton's going to need a couple of big ones from him in this series. They're going to need all hands on deck. This is going to be a tremendous series. And the same goes for Florida. Florida can't go quiet. They're going to need some big minutes from Luostarinen and guys like that. They're going to need a contribution, down the lineup. If either team slips, the margins are that thin that it's going to tip the scales in favor of one or the other.
So one of the margins has to be Evander Kane's health. How is his health?
Well, he didn't practice today, but he's going to practice on Friday, and he's going to, play the opener. Chris Knobloch has already stated that, and again, I'll tell you what, Chris is totally unafraid. He's turned the traditional, well, we're not sure. It'll be a game-time decision. We'll see what happens when, we come out for the – Chris doesn't care. Again, a sign of just utter self-confidence and utter peace with oneself in the hockey world. If he tells me Kane's practicing Friday and playing Saturday, I have no reason to believe. Now, is Kane compromised? Probably. But you could make an argument. He's been compromised for the last couple months. He's been battling through a lot of stuff. And you know what? I guarantee you Florida's got guys that are in the same boat. I don't think those kinds of rationalizations are going to help either club. I mean, we just found out Jacob Trouba was missing, a third of his ankle. So I'm sure there's both teams on both sides getting banged up. But, boy, these are two gritty teams. This is an old school Stanley Cup final. This is, Montreal, Boston, 78. This is, Flyers, Boston, what was it, 74. This is a real rugged final ahead of us.
All right, before we let you go, Jack, look, people have their differences with Ken Holland. They can knock some moves, and rightfully so. Every GM makes mistakes, but talk to us about the way he's navigated through this season, from the coaching change all the way up until now, and what effect he's had on all this.
Well, I hate to say it, and sorry, Pierre, you knew probably one of these would be coming at some point in our show, but the last time Edmonton had this kind of 5-year run of success, Pierre was doing this too. I mean, that's how long it's been. I mean, honestly, the Oilers haven't come close to this 5-year run since the late 80s, early 90s, since they closed out, 10 years, 8 conference finals between 83 and 92, 5 cups and another appearance in the final. They haven't come close to that. And again, part of it was late 90s, $25 million payroll against 80 in Dallas. But, those teams realistically had a chance for a first round upset, and that was about all. Yeah. But in terms of 5 years sustained excellence where you've got a shot, and what I mean by got a shot, you've got a shot to do something. No one's done it since those late 80s, early 90s Oilers. And even the 92 Oilers, they were on fumes. I mean, the 91 Oilers lost to, I believe, the team with the worst record ever to go that far ever, the Minnesota North Stars, who I believe were 27 up and 39 down with a bunch of ties. So, I mean, this has been a good run, and Ken Holland deserves some credit. I mean, he's had some help, obviously, but, what GM hasn't? The fact of the matter is he's brought the Oilers into the conversation where they're one of 8 or 9 teams that have a realistic shot year in, year out.
Hey, Jimmy, this is just for our younger viewers and listeners. Everything Jack said is spot on. I would just want to do a little revisionist history, though. There was a guy named Messier traded out of Edmonton. There was a guy named Lowe traded out of Edmonton. There was a guy named Gretzky traded out of Edmonton. And here's the biggest thing. They missed on a whack of drafts. So all that collateral that was moved out, they brought some back, but they didn't hit on it. And so I agree with everything Jack just said. He was spot on. But I just want our younger people out there to understand, it's not like they just were bad because there was no cap. They traded a bunch of marquee guys. Yari Curry was out of there. I mean, It got bad, Jack. I mean, I was coaching that.
Yeah.
And it was really bad to go to Northlands back in those days.
They had some tough drafts between 89 and about 96 or 97, 100%. And that catches up with you. And, you see it across all sports. I mean, Jimmy Johnson leaves Dallas, and slowly the Jerry Jones drafting or lack thereof eats away at that Cowboys dynasty. That's what happens. Ultimately, you've got to have some picks hit for you. And you mentioned, I mean, Peter Chiarelli deserves some credit. We got Evan Bouchard 10th. There were some different choices there to be had in 2018. And Stuart Skinner's a hell of a third-round pickup the year prior in 2017.
Agreed.
Totally agree. Well, listen, Jack, we know you're a busy man. We'll let you go, but we appreciate you taking the time, all right?
You bet. Anytime, fellas. Take care of yourself.
Don't you go anywhere.
Jimmy, make sure Pierre behaves for once in his life.
You just behave yourself, because there's no Primantis in Florida and there's no Primantis up in Edmonton.
Hey, Pierre, you got to do your homework, buddy. You walk down A1A, there is a Primantis. Now, it's not as good as the original, but they got one right there on A1A. Trust me.
No, but since when? How long?
At least a couple of years.
Okay.
Pierre, look at me. Why do you think I'm wearing vertical stripes? If there's a food place to be had, I'm finding it.
We had some really good meetings, Doc Emmerich and I, many nights at Primantis. We had some good times.
I remember they filmed one. I remember that. Yeah.
Scotty and I used to go there a lot too to Primantis. It was fun.
Good stuff. It's tough. Well, I'm going to need some tips when I come to Edmonton next year then, all right?
You got it, brother.
All right. Sounds good, buddy.
Jack, thank you. Thanks a lot.
You so
Take
much.
care.
Jack Michaels, great job he does broadcasting Edmonton Oilers games, and he is revved up for the Stanley Cup Final. I love his enthusiasm, Pierre.
I just appreciate his passion. I know some people say, oh, too electric, too loud. No, he's trying to enlighten people. He's trying to entertain people, and he does a really good job. And you know what else? He's knowledgeable.
Yeah, he is.
So just so people understand, it wasn't like he went to Ithaca College, which has a really good broadcasting school, and all of a sudden got right into the NHL. This guy did some serious work. He was calling games up in Alaska in the East Coast Hockey League.
Wow.
I mean, he's earned every single paycheck he's ever gotten, and I really respect Jack for that. And he and Bob Stauffer are kind of like a unique brand of broadcasting up there in Edmonton. Robbie Brown, who played with us in Pittsburgh and then got traded to Hartford early in his career for Scotty Young. Robbie's done a really nice job. I'm just telling you, really, really good job on the broadcast side there. So they've got some real good people. He talked about Louis DeBrusque, and he's got Robbie Brown, he's got Bobby Stauffer and himself, and it's a fun group. They do a good job selling a really electrifying type team. They really do. Great.
They're perfect for that market, obviously, with such a passionate market. Pierre, I'm glad you said that too, though, about, I get a lot of people, I dealt with it here in Boston, seeing people always criticize Jack Edwards, and I get it. He can be over the top sometime, but people in Jack Michaels, Jack Edwards, all those play-by-play guys for the team, for the regional networks, radio stations, what have you, that's their job. Like they don't directly work for the team all the time, but they represent the team. Now, if we go to an NBC or a TNT or an ESPN and you've got a guy openly cheering for a certain team, that can't happen. But I have no problem with team play-by-play guys being as enthusiastic as he was there. I love it. And like you said, too, on top of that, which is even more important, is he's so knowledgeable. And he's got a good pulse on what's going on there. Some of these stuff, Pierre, that we've spoke about and kind of observed from afar and sort of guessed about a bit at times, he confirmed so much of it there. Like he knows. He's in there. He's talking to the right guys. So that was a great insight into the pulse of that team right now.
Oh, that's good what you just said. Totally agree. Yeah, no, he did a really good job. I enjoyed his energy. I really did. I thought it was really good. The big thing to me, just to go on the other side to counterbalance what Jack was saying, there's going to be a Kachuk factor in this thing. There's going to be a Bennett factor in this thing. There's going to be. We're going to see the health of Florida. I don't know how injured. I know a couple guys are nicked up on the depth line, Lomberg being one of them.
Yes.
We'll see how that plays off after a little over a week of break, especially down. They're not in cold weather. They can rehab pretty quick. My concern for Edmonton is The penalty kill they're raving about in Edmonton is great. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying, Jimmy. The penalty kill in Florida is really good too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Edmonton needs to score on a power play more than Florida needs to score on a power play. So that's going to be something to watch for as we go along.
I would also say, Pierre, too, and I think we've discussed this during the conference final, too. Obviously, everybody knows how great Florida is 5-on-5. Edmonton's got to, if they can't match it, they've got to find a way to get as close to it as possible when they're 5-on-5 as well. And, I remember saying to you in the last round, talking about the PK for Edmonton, saying, too bad they can't train the guys when they're 5-on-5 to play as if they're on the penalty kill. So they're going to have to find a way to really get some goals there against Florida, where Florida is at its strongest.
And people, you're right. Everything you just said, in my opinion, is right. You got to look at center too. So for Florida, you just hear me out here. Barkov, Bennett, Lundell, and Stenlund. I don't think Edmonton can not. I know McDavid and Draisaitl are up. I get it.
We get that.
After that though, I don't think they match. Lundell's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
Jack talked about Luostarinen, and he's not wrong. He's a winger, left winger. Yeah. Lundell's starting to come out. And, we were talking about Lafreniere for the Rangers. Lundell's kind of having that same breakout period for Florida, okay? Stenlund's good. And Stenlund's not going to be – he's not a kid. He's an older guy. He's been around a lot of hockey. So it's not going to overwhelm him. He's got a role. He's played 8 to 11 to 12 minutes a game. Face-off guy, penalty kill guy, shot blocker. They don't need any offense from him. I'll tell you, that could be a big thing in this series too. If they can find a way, whether it's Barkov or Bennett, I don't know who it's going to be.
Right.
On home ice. If they can keep McDavid off the sheet 5-on-5, I think Edmonton's going to have a tough time.
I'm so glad you brought up Lundell, because I was thinking of him too when Jack was speaking about the different players there. Pierre, how many times you and I in the beginning of that Boston-Florida series, and I'd be sitting there in person at the games, and I'm saying, this Lundell he's on to another level.
We talked about him a lot.
He was a good draft pick. He was a high draft pick, but he's just found another level. And whether that's him developing over the course of, his early career here or just the playoffs, I don't know. But he is definitely at another level than he was in the regular season.
I remember watching his World Junior, and Scotty was always watching the World Junior. We would contact each other either during the game or after the game, whatever. And he kept saying to me, this one guy's really good. This Lundell's something else.
Yep.
He kept saying it, and I was like, okay, Scotty, I get it. And I totally agreed with him, but wasn't going to keep saying that. I'm listening to him.
Yeah.
And he really is. He's something else. I told you, Jimmy, the story. Scotty's coming on tomorrow. I'll never forget Scotty telling me, there's a guy in Sweden. He's a Czech, but there's a guy in Sweden. His name is David Pasternak, Pierre.
Oh, yeah.
You got to go see him play. Mm-hmm. He's really good. And Scotty was working for Chicago then. And he kept telling me, and finally I had a chance to see him, and I was like, whoa, this guy's really good. This guy's really good.
Oh, that's Scotty.
And that just shows you. So, again, for tomorrow, really pumped to have Scott on tomorrow.
Yeah. Now I want to ask him about both those players, and because he does such a great job scouting in person or from afar, thousands of miles away. That's Scotty Bowman, though. Pierre, just quickly more on the Florida thing too. All right, so obviously on paper, again, the goaltending edge goes to Edmonton's opponent, but as we were just discussing, that doesn't necessarily mean things are going to work out that way.
Oh, it doesn't.
And one thing, like I said to Jack there, and you guys agreed with me, is let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say game one, Skinner gets lit up. I don't know, 4-1. Let's say Florida wins game one, right? I'm not the least bit afraid, we might have to get Pickett in here. So I don't have that feeling anymore, because what I saw Skinner do in that last series, the way he could just bounce back and the way he stays in the moment. And that's a thing I love that Jack brought up there too, was the big picture of these guys staying in the moment. But the way he stays in the moment and doesn't get too frazzled, doesn't sit in the past, doesn't look ahead. It's really impressed me.
I really agree with that too. That's good, Jimmy. He's plus we have to remember, he's an Edmonton guy. He grew up in Edmonton.
So this is going to mean so much to him.
Oh, it means a ton to him.
Yeah.
Playing with his heroes. I talked about this the other day with Kenny Danico. Kenny Kenny's an Edmonton guy. I know he's born in Windsor, but Kenny's an Edmonton guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he grew up there, and his dream was to play for the Oilers, but he got drafted by the Devils.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up playing every single game in his entire career with the New Jersey Devils, and he won 3 Stanley Cups there. He had an amazing career.
Uh-huh.
Part of what motivated him, he told me all the time, is being an Edmonton kid, watching Messier and watching Kevin Lowe and watching Dr. Randy Gregg, and watching Lee Fogelin and watching all these guys play for Edmonton. So, could you imagine being Stuart Skinner? Now, he's not old enough to have seen Grant Fuhr play, or Moog play, or not even Billy Ranford play. No. But, you think about it, it's pretty amazing where Skinner is. No, he's not old enough to have seen those guys play.
No. I'm trying to think, though. Who was the Finnish goalie they had for a while that maybe took him to the second round once or twice?
Markin, UC Markin.
Yeah. So he might have seen him, eh? But, I mean, that's not like a legendary guy.
Probably the one guy he would probably be the most intrigued by would be Dwayne Rollison.
Oh, yeah.
Rollison in 06 would probably be the guy that would probably, turn him up or get him excited the most. Dwayne was really good that run. Really good. Yeah. Good
stuff, though. I was glad you brought up Kane when he was talking about Tkachuk. That would be a fun matchup to watch. I'm going to be honing in on that.
Again, you get last change if you're Florida. Maybe early on, you don't do it. You don't play into it. Force them to change on the fly, get them out of sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you say, one shift, we're going to put Lomberg, Tkachuk, and Bennett together.
Wow.
Just say it, and you tell Lomberg, if there's a scrum, you're in.
Yep.
You don't let Matthew get involved in the scrum. You go in there and you take the scrum.
I'll tell you, I was impressed with Lomberg in that series against Boston.
He's a tough kid. I mean,
he's an energy ball too.
Go look at his record. He played at Maine, and he wasn't there a long time. He had everything he got in hockey. It's because he's got courage. He's got guts.
Yeah.
He's got guts. He really does. He's a tough kid.
You brought up Scotty there, and we want to remind our viewers and listeners, we will have the one and only Scotty Bowman join us tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. He will be previewing the Stanley Cup Final, give his scouting report, which to this point has been dead on pretty much 99% of the time, if not 101.
I know you're going to Vegas. You should bring him.
Oh my gosh, I would love to have him in Vegas. It would be great. What would be amazing is just on that flight, just sitting next to a guy like him with the stories he has that he could tell you. That'd be like one of the best flights you ever have.
Here's the one tip I'm going to tell you: don't bug him on a plane.
Okay, all right. I won't engage. If he engages me, then I go for it.
Don't bug him on the plane unless he talks to you. You don't say a word.
There we go. I like it. Is that your rule too, Pierre, or what?
We had a different relationship than that. It was okay. I was allowed to talk, but I've seen other people trying to talk. I was like, oh, don't do that. Just don't do it.
Oh, gosh. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's go to our sponsor. We'll get to our questions and comments here in a bit. Let's bring that up. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering pieces of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Pierre, I wonder, do they do hockey equipment at TCS? Maybe the teams can use them for that 2,500-mile sojourn they're going to be going back and forth on.
Yeah, I don't know if they're handling equipment or not, but I know they're handling a lot of stuff. They've done unbelievably well, so we're really grateful to them. And how about Vinny Loyal yesterday saying,
I know, that's great.
Their sponsorship, he's going to start utilizing TCS. That just
means a lot to us.
How nice that is. And the great people that are watching and listening to the show. We're really grateful. Thank you.
That's good stuff. All right, let's bring up our first question. What do we have here on a Wednesday afternoon? Marco Larabi. How do you guys think Edmonton's D will manage the Panthers' rabid pressure and forecheck? Great question. Nurse really stepped up last series, but yeesh. CC better learn to move the puck fast. Great observations again from Mark.
Yeah, Marco, I like that. The one thing I would do is your D has 3 quick options. D to the near side wing, D to the short side center, D to the D partner, and then it's got to be through the middle of the ice. You can't try to skate it out. You won't be able to beat the first forechecker. It's hard play if you rim it on the boards because they're coming with the strong side pinch. Yep. So if it's not tape to the near side wing, you got to hit the low center. And if you don't hit the low center, you got to hit your D partner. And then that center's got to come across low and you got to get it right to them. It's hard. If the puck's on the wall against Florida, you're going to be hemmed in for 17 to 25 seconds. You're just getting the puck out.
I mean, I think teams know when they play Florida, they know they're in trouble, Pierre, when they start to think too much or they start to get a little hesitant.
That's why I'm telling you, it's three simple things. It's not five. It's three simple things.
Yeah, keep it simple. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, how much does Bouchard get in his next contract?
Probably McGuire-like numbers. Probably similar to McGuire-like.
He's pushing there.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Go ahead.
I'm going to give you a number. We're just going to say whatever McGuire's doing, Bouchard's probably going there.
Yeah. He's been unreal. All right, next question. Do you keep McDavid and Draisaitl in one line, or you split them during 5-on-5? I split
never them on the road. I wouldn't put them together on the road unless I was behind Jimmy, just because it's too easy a matchup. I'd split them up and force Florida to make some decisions, especially with Barkov. You got to decide who you want. If you're Paul Maurice, do you want Barkov against McDavid, or do you want Bennett against McDavid?
Right.
And if you do Bennett against McDavid, you know why they're doing that.
Yeah.
It's for physical pain.
Yeah.
And then you play Barkov against Draisaitl and take away the space. And so there's a lot, but I wouldn't play them 5-on-5 unless I was behind in the game. Not on
the one thing Bob Black's done, though, Pierre, that's been good a couple times a game, he'll put them on together right after a PK.
That or
on
an offensive zone face-off after an icing. Yeah, I've seen that. But
exactly.
I'm just saying we're talking 5-on-5 where you can't. I wouldn't do it at home on the road. I'd do it at home. I wouldn't do it on the road.
And further to what you were saying earlier, Pierre, talking about the differences in center depth and the balance up the middle. You don't want to shake that up because then you all of a sudden become too top heavy. I think it's perfect to keep them 1-2. All right, next question. John Smith, lifelong Isles fan. Is Lou still the guy to get the Isles out of mediocrity? I think it might be time to rebuild and possibly look for a new perspective. He's a legend, but there's a lot of work to do. Pierre, I'll let you take this.
There's a lot of work to do. The roster's not elite. I think he addressed some things when he brought in Patrick Roy.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick did really well. Their former coach, Lane Lambert, has moved on. He's now going to be an associate coach in Toronto. So congratulations to Lane. Very good person, like him a lot. A Stanley Cup winner with his time with Washington. So all good stuff there. But Lou's got some work to do.
Yeah,
They've got work to do. I think they know it as a management team. That's why they added draft picks. I think they know it as an ownership group, and I think they know it as a team. I think they know it as a group.
I don't know, and I don't pretend to know any inside stuff there. All I'm saying from afar, my opinion, I think he's there at least 2, if not 3 more years. They wouldn't have hired Waugh. They obviously are going to start making some moves on the trade market. So I think they're going to see where this goes and then maybe revisit it in a bit.
Yep.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, how does a coach prepare a team to not let players like Tkachuk and Bennett get in their heads?
Well, when I was in Pittsburgh, we had to play against the New York Rangers, and they had a guy named Messi who was really good, and everybody was talking about how great he was, and he was. But they also had another guy that was a serious shift disturber, Ty Domi. And Ty Domi played on a line with Darren Turcotte and Chris King, and those guys buzzed around and caused a lot of mayhem. And so we just talked to our players straight up and said, Domi and King aren't going to affect how we play the game. Just let them go. And if we need to take care of business, we'll take care of it for you. But you don't need to worry about it right now. Just go play. And we had to do the same thing when we played Chicago in the Stanley Cup Final. I remember when we played Boston, we had to do the same thing in 91. So, yeah, you talk to your players and just say, if it gets to the point where we need that influence and take care of business, we'll get it influenced. We'll take care of it.
All right, next question. Mike, Pierre, and Jimmy, Ken calls you both and asks you who's a better fit for our team moving forward, Zegras or Natchez?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I'm going to say Natchez.
I'm going to say Natchez.
Yep. We'll just leave it at that. Next question. John Smith, aloha. Riley Kidney, a viable NHL prospect? Question mark. The Hockey News has him outside of the team's top 10 prospects. Not hearing much about him these days. Cheers.
I don't have him as a top 10 prospect. I think Riley's a player that has to show some real positive stuff this off season when it gets to. Yeah. I don't even know if he's going to dev camp in Montreal. I got to think he is, but he's going to have to show some stuff in dev camp if he goes, and then the big camp. I think Owen Beck has probably jumped him on the depth chart, and so again, I don't know. It's so hard. But I think he's a prospect? The answer is no, I don't.
Yeah. All right, next question. Marco again. Do the Oilers benefit from battling the Panthers in the alley and gutter, or do they focus on whistle to whistle? That's a great question again from Marco. And furthermore to what we were talking about, shift disturbers.
They had to do a little of that when they played Vancouver. Not a lot, a little bit. They had to do a little bit with Dallas, not a lot, a little bit. This is a different entity. Different. I would prefer they try to play their game rather than play into the hands of Florida. That's where teams get in trouble. They try to play in the hands of the Florida Panthers. You're not going to match them when it comes to a street fight situation. Just not. You don't have the artillery to do it. So I would say try to play your game. But also, when the Rangers had a little success against Florida, they didn't have a lot, but when they had a little, they had a wolf pack mentality. If one guy got attacked from the Rangers team, the other four guys were right in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you got to have to approach the Florida thing. If they don't attack people and just keep playing, go after somebody and they attack them, that's when the wolf pack has to come in and protect that guy.
I agree completely. Be yourselves. All right, next question. Sean Myers. Pierre, who is your dark horse pick for picks 10 to 33?
I'm going to keep going with the same. I'm going to keep going with the same player all the time. I don't get it. I mean, Cole Eiserman is out of the top 10.
Yeah.
I hope somebody's going to come to their senses, but I'm just going to say Cole Eiserman.
Yeah. I think he'd be I'm with you, Pierre. I think he makes too much sense for the Canadians.
Score. People have to understand. Look, nobody enjoys defensive concepts as much as I do. It's hard to watch them and it's hard to practice them, but you got to do them. But I'm just saying, in order to win games, you got to score goals. And guys who can score, it doesn't matter. This guy knows how to score.
And in a team like the Canadians too, Pierre, they've got guys that are already kind of establishing that 200-foot game. And so you can, I don't know if shelter's the word, but you can kind of work around a guy that maybe doesn't have it as much as them,
Well, I like the fact that he's going to BU. I like the fact he's going to learn from an NHL coach.
And a guy that was one of the best defensive players.
Jay Pandolfo had NHL interviews this spring. So, it's not just us pumping his tires because we're his friend, but he had NHL interviews this off season. The part of the problem that's going to hurt Cole Eiserman is they don't have Celebrini going to be there. He's going to leave. Lane Hudson's not there. So, Wilander is, and that's good on the back end for the power play, and that should help Eiserman. But we'll see how it plays out at BU. But the fact that he's going to BU and playing for Jay, I think is huge.
And don't forget where Jay came from originally, the New Jersey Devils. Probably some of the best defensive teams ever.
I think that pick's getting traded out of New Jersey.
Yeah. All right. That would be interesting. All right. Next question. Real Deal Prime. Question. Paul Maurice was recently asked if he has ever been to a Tim Hortons. Paul shook his head and said, "Did you want me to get some beans?" Question. What do you got? He's so good. Question. What do you take in your coffee, Pierre, Jimmy?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I do a splash of milk and 2 sugars. There you go.
So when I go to Tim Hortons and Dunkin', I get black. But if I go to a fancier place, I get a latte.
Okay, nice.
But I always drank my coffee black.
What was what's the best coffee place in Montreal you ever been to, Pierre? Just a random question.
Well,
are there any old school ones or?
No, you know what? I never really had time to sit down.
Yeah, because you're always on the move, and sometimes you're not even there.
It starts with an S and ends with an S.
Exactly.
If they want to sponsor the show, we'll say their name.
Yeah, exactly. Just call us up. All right, next question. Alex Evanovsky, what would you do if you were Columbus? Would you tear it down a little more with some of the veterans or stay the current course? How far away are they from where Detroit is, for example? Pierre, before you, I'll just quickly say, I would stay the course a little. I wouldn't go nuts here. I wouldn't just blow it all up. I wouldn't do that. And by the way, I might be about to lose power. The lights are flickering here, but we'll see.
They got to decide what they're going to do with their goaltending in Columbus. I think the rest of the roster's kind of going the right direction. I really do.
Yeah.
Donnie Waddell's already at work, so we'll see what he decides to do. Obviously he's a GM. The biggest question is, do they bring the same coaching staff back? Do they change it? I'm sure Donnie's probably going over that now. But I wouldn't be in a rush I'm with Jimmy on this. I think they're kind of trending the right way. I'm just going to say this again for those that haven't heard it about Fantilli. I think Adam Fantilli's got a chance to be like Mike Modano. I don't say that often about kids. I don't think it's fair to do that to kids. I've been watching this guy for a long time. Going back to when he played for Tim Whitehead at Kimball Union Academy. Watched him play for Chicago Steel. Watched him play for Kenneth the World Junior. My son played against him when he was at Michigan. I've seen the kid play a lot. He's a star player.
I'll put it this way, Pierre.
Special. What's that?
Based on what I watched, but more so what you told me in your scouting report, I actually, in my preseason award predictions, I picked him over Bedard for the Calder, but then, of course, he gets hurt, and that's it.
The injury set him back, but I think if he would have – same with Connor, though. Connor had a bad injury, too. But, no, he's as good as –
I didn't think there was that much of a distance like a lot of people did.
So the one guy to watch for next year and his second year, because I know how hard he's training in Sweden and talk to his agent, is Leo Carlson.
Yeah.
So you got to watch him. But that top three of that draft is really special.
And Pierre, another reason to watch him is what they did with him last year and how great they were managing his minutes.
Was good. Verbeek was good. They handled it as a general manager and a coach really well.
Yeah. I want to see how many more.
They didn't get intimidated by the media or other teams. They did not.
Yeah. How many do you think teams that's going to become more of a trend with rookies?
I don't think teams really want to rush guys. And this guy just had a unique physical stature that he had played against men before. It's, Jimmy, I run these skates in the morning here in Boston. And
right.
I'm watching these guys, and some are really close to being – I think we got 6 or 7 guys going to dev camps from my group. And you can see that guys are really close. There's 2 or 3 of them that are really close to being ready to go. But the guys that aren't there yet, it's a big gap. And so guys that I'm talking about that are like ready to go, they're still gapped out big from getting to the big show. So it's hard. It's not too many 18 or 19-year-old guys are ready to do that.
I think fans and media in general need to realize that a little more. All right, next question. Maxar, how hard is it to find a guy like Hyman at the draft? Don't see that many of his player type ranked high. Pierre, before you go, I think it is hard to find, but I do feel like those players are ranking high over the last 5 to 7 years because teams are seeing how important those style of players have become in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's perfect. Totally agree. I think Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, was a 5th round pick, if I remember correctly, with Florida. He was not a finished product. Like, there was a lot of work to do there. Yeah. But I think what stood out to the scouts was his size, big guy, burly guy.
And his heart.
Hockey sense is good. Skates, maybe not as refined with his hand skills, but those have improved over time. And he's fearless. He's not afraid. So those things, the character, the eye test stood out on him.
Yeah, he's the epitome of the eye test. All right, next question. Randy Workman, if you're the Flames, do you pick a Ginler or Iceman if they are both there?
Well, if I'm Calgary, I'm taking a Ginler just because. Canadian kid, father's an icon, part of the franchise. He plays in the Western Hockey League. Eiserman's a U.S. kid, plays at BU. It's not even – I'm taking a Ginler.
All right, next question. State of survival. If you were to redo the 2015 draft, McDavid, in hindsight, who would be your top 10 knowing what you know now?
Oh man,
let's get back to that tomorrow, or you know what, Friday, because it's just going to be you and me on Friday, Pierre.
Yeah.
And remind everyone there too, we're going to be at noon on Friday, noon Eastern. I have something to do later on in the day, but We're going to be at noon on Friday. I'm going to research that and get back to you.
You know what? Do me a favor. Keep that question, though, because we're definitely going to.
Yeah, please remind the State of Survival for sure.
Definitely address that Friday.
I'm going to write it down too. 2015. All right, next question. Marco Larrabee. You guys think load management will be there? You go. Will be a thing in the NHL?
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you something, and Scotty's coming on tomorrow. Montreal used to practice load management. When they had older players, they would say, "You're going to go away for the weekend. We're going to send you to Florida, and you're going to go there." They were practicing load management back in the 60s and the 70s with the Montreal Canadiens.
They called it that.
There was no term. You're going on vacation. It wasn't called load management. But they used to do that with older guys. So, no, I mean, do I think it's going to become more like the NBA? No, I don't.
All right, next question. Mike, not sure if you guys spoke about it, but what a oh, yes, thank you, Mike, for bringing that up. Not sure if you guys spoke about it. What a career Pavelski had to work for everything he's achieved in the NHL. Totally agree, Mike. And, to Joe Pavelski, thanks for all the memories. One of the best American players I've ever seen. And just by all accounts, and Pierre will be able to tell you more about this, but by all accounts, just a class act.
Oh, special human, great human being, great father, great husband, awesome teammate, true leader. You'd hate to see at the end of the road come for anybody because he wants to keep playing, but he also knows. This reminds me a little of Joe Sakic, by the way. I remember telling you this, Jimmy, before the 2010 Olympics. Joe just saying to me, I can't. I'm not playing. I'm like, why not? It's your hometown. I'm not going to do it. I'm not there anymore. My game's not there.
Yeah. And
he knew. I think those guys know at the right point. They know.
It's probably one of the hardest things for a pro athlete, not just hockey players. I mean, just having to admit that and know it, Pierre. I can't imagine what that's like. But power to the ones who can do it, because sometimes we see but you keep going. But I think it's.
Well, look at Patty Bergeron. You were there. You were around. He knew. He
knew, and he still was great that season. But he knew, and that I like that. I respect that a lot. All right, next question.
Tons of it.
Enter tap. Pavelski, Hall of Fame, in your opinion? I'd say yes. He's borderline, but I'll say yes. I know Pierre's not.
I can't speak about that. I apologize.
Yeah, he's on the committee. Next question. Chris, can we touch a bit on Greg Cote, the outrageous take on Connor McDavid? Are you familiar with this, Pierre?
It's a column, or it's a guy in Florida that said
Miami Herald columnist said
overrated player.
We've been calling him Mick Overrated.
Yeah, okay. Nickname. I don't know the person that said that or writes that stuff. I'm never going to get into a name calling thing. I'm just going to call it the way it is. It's inappropriate if you've never seen the player play live. I don't know if you've seen him play live or not, but if you go watch that guy play live and you still can say that, then I'm not sure you know what you're watching.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this. I actually, and it's not, that's a fair question. It's a great question to ask. I didn't want to get into it. I was thinking, do I bring this up with Jack when we had him on? I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to recognize that silliness. It's just clearly he's looking for clicks, and by all accounts, he's not at a lot of live NHL games, Pierre, from the interviews I've seen him do in the last 48 hours. It's just whatever.
I don't know. Again, I apologize. I'm going to say this in advance.
For our listeners, what?
I don't know the person. I don't know his body work, so I apologize. I really pay attention to hockey.
Yep.
I don't know him from a hockey perspective, so that's a pretty strong take for a guy that really doesn't.
Yeah.
That I'm not aware of follows hockey.
And like our listeners and viewers, I'm sure know, because they're all great hockey people. Like Jack said, this guy is entering the top 5 ever. I mean, he is on another level, and he's become such a great leader. So we'll leave it at that. I think that's it with our questions, Pierre. Pretty sure, yeah. It says we got no more, but I want to remind everyone out there, we do have Scotty Bowman joining us tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to preview the Stanley Cup Final. Cannot wait for his scouting report, Pierre. It's been so dead on throughout every time we've had him on before playoff round. And really, as always, looking forward to just listening to him talk. I learned something every single time he's on with us.
I thought Jack Michaels was outstanding today.
Oh, yeah.
I really did. I thought there was passion, there was knowledge, there was energy, there was pride.
Uh-huh.
I love the pride factor. Guys have pride for the team they're covering. I love that part of it. I really do. I think that's great. Way to go, Jack. He's made a heck of a career for himself, and he deserves a lot of credit. I'm really happy for him.
I love the point he made about Ken Holland at the end there when I asked him, and he said, look,
it was good.
We've been consistently in contention for 5 years. We hadn't seen that in so long. It's like, all right, is he making mistakes? Yeah, but he's getting us a contender every year. We know we're going to contend. I thought that was a great point to counter because I've heard a lot of, for some reason, Holland negativity lately. And I'm like, come on. The guy's done his job, in my opinion. He has, and he's given them a chance. And here they are in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 2006. We will preview that again tomorrow with Scotty Bowman. And then Pierre and I will wrap up the week on Friday. Remember, at noon Eastern, not our usual 4 p.m. For Jack Michaels, for Pierre McGuire, I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.